Welcome to Mindful Management, Creating a Trauma-Informed Work Environment, a podcast by Chefalo Consulting, where we share the knowledge, stories, and resources you need to create a trauma-informed culture that supports wellness, growth, and resilience. I'm your host, Shenandoah Chefalo. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you're joining us for another episode, that you keep sticking around, listening to everything we have here to say. On today's episode of Mindful Management, Creating a Trauma-Informed Work Environment, I could not be any more excited to bring to you someone that I've considered a friend for a super, super long time. She has been doing some amazing work that I can't wait to tell you all about, and I can't wait for you to hear from her, because not too long ago, she also completed what I think is one of the greatest accomplishments, her very own TEDx. She had a spot on her very own TEDx stage. So we're excited to hear all about it. And we're delighted to welcome today longtime friend of mine and friend of the Chefalo Consulting community, Tige Charity, who has been a dedicated advocate for youth in foster care and is also the founder of Kids in the Spotlight. We'll sometimes call it KITS. So if everyone gets confused, Kids in the Spotlight, KITS. Tige's journey began with a vision to use storytelling as a therapeutic tool, providing foster youth the platform to express and heal through filmmaking. Many of you know this is just ticking off boxes for me, and you're like, now I know why Tige and Shen are friends. This is all the things Shen's always talking about. She has a background in accounting and an MBA in nonprofit management, and has transformed her passion into a profound mission, leading kids to become a beacon of hope and change. She has been recognized for her impactful work with numerous community service awards. You can see them behind her. Everybody, this is a girl who has so many amazing awards. And she continues to inspire not only me, but many others with her commitment to empowering the most vulnerable in our communities. Welcome, Tige. We are thrilled to have you on the show today.
Oh my gosh, shit. I hope you know the feelings are mutual, okay?
Well, you're one of the few people that makes me want to come to Los Angeles, right, Tige? Like, to fight the crowds, to fight LAX, I'm like, do I get to see Tige and the KITS team? Yes. If not, maybe I'll pass.
I love it. I love it. But yes, thank you so much for having me and giving me an opportunity just to talk about the work that we're doing at Kids in the Spotlight. I really do appreciate it. And also to talk about the work that we've learned and implemented from just attending your sessions. So, this trauma-informed training, it's real.
The KITS folks are my people. They feel like family to me.
We didn't traumatize you, right?
Yeah, I think sometime in 2009, 2010, we had our first conversation, really, and you were already doing KITS, but your journey is both inspiring and transformative. So can you tell us, like, the moment that kind of crystallized your decision to use filmmaking and storytelling in this way with youth in foster care?
Wow. So, there was a couple of things that was happening, and they weren't all happening at the same time. When my husband and I moved to California, he joined a theater company, and the theater company that he was a part of was teaching an acting class at an all-girls group home, and I got a chance to accompany him. It was my first time ever being up close and personal with young people in foster care. And during that visit, we were invited to tour the facility, and as we toured, went through the girls' dorms, and just the whole experience, it just literally cracked my heart open. I wanted to do something to give back, but didn't know what, didn't know how. I remember the mentors saying, well, they always need good mentors. And I was like, yeah, but I'm coming from this place of sympathy. They don't need sympathy. So I don't know if I'll be the best mentor. So let me just sit on it. Well, 2 years passed after that visit, and the Great Recession happened, and I found myself unemployed. I was laid off from the job that I was working in insurance as a claims specialist. I used to work risk management and handle litigated cases. And so it was my first time being unemployed. Well, at the same time, the church that I was attending was doing a series called Discovering God's Dream for Your Life. And I sort of rebelled against that whole thing because I graduated from Oral Roberts. I knew every message about purpose. I was like, is this purpose thing real? If it is, what's mine? Because I'm lost. And so one night I had what I called a temper tantrum with God. And I was so frustrated and was just like, okay, God, if purpose is real, I need to know what is mine. And I remembered the girl that I met a couple of years prior. And I just felt like God said, you love the arts and you love people. Those kids did something on the inside. I did something on the inside. And I believe at that time, God told me to create a platform for them to be seen, heard, validated, celebrated, telling their stories their way and use it as an opportunity to engage the entertainment industry, helping them to, like, learn more about the child welfare system. So bridging this gap between two entities in LA that impacts that impacts the state, right? The entertainment industry generating billions in revenue and the child welfare system costing millions. So that's when it was solidified for me. So I know it's always a loaded answer for that one, but because it was a series of events.
Yeah, but I remember that first call from you because I also remember it's one of the things that sticks out to me is you said, "Listen, I'm doing this thing and I have no idea what I'm doing." And I was like, this woman knows exactly what she's like. For me, you came from such a place of I don't even know if this is right, what I'm supposed to be doing, where I am in this thing. And from my end, I was like, this is the most incredible idea and thing I've ever heard of in my whole entire life. And not only do I want it to be successful and you to be successful, really the thousands of kids' lives that can be impacted, right? Because that's what was so amazing to me is you were like, it's not just about acting, Shen. I mean, I can remember that conversation. It's about all of these things and all of these jobs that are high paying jobs that people could get that they don't even know exist. And the healing power of telling their stories and having someone hear their story, right? Sometimes for the first time, as you know.
Absolutely. It's one of the things we've heard over and over again that therapists are saying and social workers have said the youth that go through our program, when they go back to therapy or when they're working with their social workers, they're much more easier to work with. They get more out of them, especially when we do the program inside of group homes, because having this creative outlet is very therapeutic, right? And it tells not only them that they're not alone because they're working with other that have had stories that they're suppressing and being able to tell that story and finding this common connection amongst, each other. But not only that, educating society and the world about the real issues and taking away the stigma that's often associated with foster care or just creating awareness because some people just don't think about foster care at all. Not my problem. Don't know any foster youth. So they just kind of oblivious or clueless and not on purpose. They just don't know.
Yeah, not on purpose to your thing, but just for not knowing, right? You can't know what you don't know. But that's the therapeutic piece to me. I just want to talk about for a second because for our listeners and Taiji, we talk about this a lot is, when you're in that fight, flight, freeze, appease state of mind, right? You can't access creativity. And not only can you not access creativity, you can't access things like goal setting. You can't access decision making. You can't access rational thought. And so for foster youth who listen, everyone in foster care has trauma. We now know everyone has trauma, but specifically we know the foster care population is especially high or they wouldn't be in the system in the first place, right? So they often are stuck in fight, flight, freeze. And one of the things that's so amazing about your program is helping them to begin to rewire that brain into executive functioning. And that's why you're hearing from therapists about they're so much easier to work with. It's like, well, we're not all coming from this place. And so I'm wondering, what's the toll of that for you and the staff at KITS?
Shen, doing social impact work can be extremely exhausting. And when you have a small team and you're trying to serve as many youth that knock on your door or want to participate in your program, it can be very taxing because it's just not enough internal staff to really meet the demands of the real need, and you got to fight and compete with funding to try to build a team. So it does get taxing. I literally this week, and I'm almost afraid to tell you this because I know you all about that work-life balance. But it was 7 days a week for me this week. I had three events on Saturday. I emceed an event. Our youth film was at a film festival, Reel to Reel Recovery, where they won Best Drama. Whoop, whoop. And then, and then after that, our kids were holding a listening session at our studio because they're working on a documentary about the overuse of medication among foster youth. So they hosted a listening session around foster youth being over medicated and trying to talk about policy change and just bring awareness. So I was there to support them till late. And then we had a booking at the studio. And every time we have a full-time booking, we link our young people to jobs that's happening at our production studio. So it's an earn as you learn model. And my production studio manager had been working nonstop. So I'm like, you know what? You gotta go home. Like you just have to go. I will stay. I will show up and fill in for the rest of the day. And that's hard. It gets exhausting.
So I know why you don't want to tell me because Taiji knows, wait, Shen's going to make me say this thing. And then she's going to be like, but Taiji, you can only give what you're overflowing with, right? I mean, this is the conversation that we have all the time. And I think for not just you and not just for kids, but for many of the people listening, they're doing human service work. They're doing social impact work. And this is how do we find the balance of, listen, we have this amazing program. We see huge changes for kids. We hear about it through therapists. We hear about it through the kids. We hear about it through the community. Really positive, engaging work. And listen, we got to find money. We got to jump through the hoops that funders put out there for us, which in and of itself is 3 full-time jobs.
And traumatizing.
And traumatizing because not everybody's going to say yes. Not everybody's going to give money, or they're going to say, hey, we like your project, but we want to give money only for this part of the project. And now you're trying to find funds to make up the difference, right? All the pieces. And to stay healthy because you can only give to the kids what you're overflowing with, right? So, which has been a big conversation. She knows next time I'm in LA, she knows I've told her, Taiji, next time I'm in LA, you and the staff and I got to have a conversation. But so start by telling us like when this concept of trauma-informed care kind of first intersected for you, Taiji, because it wasn't always on your forefront. On your forefront was storytelling.
An outlet, just giving them an outlet to, to tell their stories their way. But when I noticed the types of stories that they were writing about, they were talking about bullying, neglect, sex trafficking, abuse, drugs. And I was just like, whoa. I'm like, oh my gosh, these stories are so heavy. Our program, so I'm just saying, our program culminates in an annual Kids Film Awards. It's our version of the Academy Awards. So we used to call that event Kids Film Festival, where we present movies by kids for kids. But when I started to see and this consistent type of storyline, I was like, okay, we got to drop this movies for kids by kids because the content of these films are not for, because I wouldn't want my kid watching and hearing some of the things, not at a very young age. I just wouldn't want to expose her. So that's when I began to realize that, wow, this is really a trauma outlet for some of these young people. So now that we've got them to open up about the trauma, now how do we introduce and get them on a path of healing? It's one thing to air out the dirty laundry, but how do we begin to work on those things that you are dealing with or that you're talking about? So for us, we created a youth services department to introduce wraparound services where we have a partnership with Antioch University, where our youth have access to 24-hour counseling, where we connect with them just to do check-ins. We started calling our office a healing-centered environment because of Shen. I'm like, everything is centered around that healing place. Because again, we don't want them dwelling in a place of trauma because trauma is debilitating. It's handicapping, so it's like, okay, let's deal with the trauma. Let's talk about the trauma. Let's expose the trauma. Let's pinpoint the trauma. But now let's do the work so that you can be a successful college educated choose to be, a successful entrepreneur if you choose to be. I want you to have a seat at the decision making table, not just a job. We want you to have careers. We want you to be successful leaders in the community, and you're capable of doing it. They're so smart. I mean, we learn from them just as much as we're trying to teach them.
I love it when you send the students to the training. It's like it's the joy for me to watch them have an aha moment, right? Like that moment when, and by the way, I always learn because they'll be the first one to be like, Shen, you're wrong. And here's what, and I love it. I love every second of it. But I want to, Taiji, just to focus on you a second, because I think that's an important piece because your background is not social work. Your background is not as a clinician, right? Your background was in accounting. I mean, that it couldn't be the more opposite of what you find yourself doing some days, right? But I think that piece, I actually think is what makes Kit so successful is that you said, because I think if someone would have come into it from that background, they would have been so focused on that they would have missed the actual healing of the filmmaking, right? And for you, because you kind of got introduced to, wait, these stories are so heavy and so real, and people need to know about it, that it almost came secondary to you. Filmmaking was first, and this healing piece was secondary, that I think is actually really critical. And we talk about this, that it's inside out work, right? It's like the kids don't come because they think it's therapy. They come because they want to make a movie, and that's cool and fun, right? And then we get to the healing piece. And that's what, when we talk about inside out work, it's like people got to want to be there in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
So in developing your programs, can you just talk about a little bit, how does KITS ensure that the voices and needs of youth are central? You and I have talked about many organizations where originally they're central, but then somewhere they begin to lose their way. But you guys have done a fabulous job of this. And I'm just wondering, especially for leaders who are listening, Taiji, how do you always make sure that their voice is central to the creation and the ongoing adjustments that you make as new things pop up?
I think staying mission focused and reminding everyone of our mission and our why, we stay at that foundational level of why we exist in the first place. We don't always get everything right, but our slogan is kids telling their stories their way. So they go through our script to screen, program, and we have industry professionals come in helping to guide, helping them talk about, learn the platform of Final Draft, which is a standard screenwriting platform, learning the concept of what storytelling is and screenwriting, but giving them the autonomy to be able to tell the stories they want to tell together as a team. So they're learning the teamwork and collaboration. So oftentimes they're telling their individual stories, but collectively, that they're combining stories together. So for us, that's the flagship program. That's the core of who we are, for young people telling their stories their way. And, and the funny thing is when we go beyond the filmmaking and we start doing the wraparound services, that's where it can get a little bit challenging for us, because sometimes there are needs outside of the area in which we serve. Like we try to find housing. We're not a housing program, but we'll be up 9, 10 at night, me, drag my husband into it. He's going to, look for hotels, calling hotels, trying to find a place for our young people to stay, looking for food, looking for all of these things, other basic needs that they need. And that's the part that gets hard, because when you're not able to meet a certain need, then they're mad because we thought you were different. We thought, and we're like, oh my gosh. And that's the part that's just like, I don't want to fail you. I don't want to fail you. So that's where it gets really hard for me, because I don't want to let them down. I feel like so many people have failed them, and I don't want to be on that list. Or have kids in the spotlight on that list. But it's a balancing thing, right? Because sometimes there's just sense of entitlement. Like you were able to make waves for this one. You can't do it for me. And it's like,
yeah, and still trying to do your mission, right? Because you said it there, Taiji. Our mission isn't housing. Our mission isn't food. Our mission isn't all of these other things that our youth need, that are critical, because without those things, they're not going to show up for the program anyway, right? So you get brought into these other pieces of the work, in trying to do your mission. So can you just talk us through maybe some unexpected benefits that have emerged in the work, right? Because there's challenges, but what about some of the unexpected benefits that have come out of all of this?
I mean, one of the biggest ones that I really love talking about is when the young people's film got accepted at the White House Film Festival in 2016, and they got to meet President Barack Obama. And these young people came out of the Oval Office crying in a crowd of the other, I think it was 10 films that got accepted. They coming out of the Oval Office with other youth who are not in foster care, and our youth are crying, "We love foster care." And that blew me away because usually people are very ashamed of the stigma of foster care. Some, not all, but they realized in that moment that, wow, foster care is not the end of my story. Me being in foster care gave me access to this program, which got me access to the White House. So that was a very, I guess, not really a pivotal moment, but a very exciting moment for the organization. And then something else that was unexpected when a young lady who had been, the court system had been really trying to push her to testify against her predator, and she just kept, she couldn't do it because she was so afraid. She just didn't do it. I mean, she's a teenager. And so she did our program. After she did our program, she won Best Actor at our Kids Film Awards. And after that, she testified against her predator. She got the tools she needed during her acting classes to go and stand before the judge and just tell what happened. She tapped into the courage that she needed, and she knew she had a village that was supporting her and behind her. So she didn't feel alone. She felt secure enough to go and tell her story. So those are moments for me, and and other moments, of course, where people have moved on to get other jobs in the entertainment industry and are working successful in the entertainment industry. That's mission accomplished for us. But when you really see the transformation of the human soul, the human spirit, there's nothing like it. I'm just like, okay.
It's addicting, right, Taiji? I say this all the time about training, and people are like, what do you like about it? I'm like, well, I could go on and on about what I don't like about it, but the I like about it, and somebody just asked me this morning, it's like when you see someone have the aha, when someone goes, oh, like, and that thing just finally clicks, it's like that right there, that little shift, right? Whether it's at the White House or in a courtroom, Taiji, for me, it's like, that thing right there where somebody goes, this isn't the end. Wait, this explains so much. Wait, there's more to my story, right? That piece to me is so addicting that this is why we do 7 days a week sometimes.
It's so addicting that I started calling myself the impact junkie. That's how addicting it is, right? Really trying to get these young people to just step into their greatness and know who they are.
So, Taiji, I know that you guys, here's the one thing. Everyone knows that if Shen were to win the Powerball, most of it would be going to kids in the spotlight. Hands down, without a doubt.
I have one friend who says that all the time. I'm like, girl, I hope you hurry up and win.
I know. So there's those of us out here who are believers, and I know the impact, the positive impact for the youth that you work with. But that also takes a toll on you and the staff at KITS. And so at some point you had this realization that maybe you all need some different kinds of training, that something different has to happen. What was that? What made you start to notice that impact, Taiji, on you and the staff? And what was it that made you think we got to think about how we do this work differently?
One, how we were showing up for one another, how we were communicating with one another. And then, it was, lost a few staff members. And I'm like, okay, we're already a small team. We can't afford to lose staff members. So it was a combination of those. And then a few people saying that, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling burnt out. And I'm like, me too. You're not alone. Me too. I was speaking, I was a spotlight at a leadership program that I'm a part of about 2 weeks ago. And one of my fellow CEOs, as I was, spotlighting and sharing all the things that we do at Kids in the Spotlight and all the accomplishment, they asked, does anybody have any questions? And one of my CEO fellows said, Tige, you pour into so many. And she said, I'm a beneficiary of all that you have done. You've opened doors for me. You've made connections for me. I see the work you're doing and the young people. Who pours into you? I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, why you want to ask me something like that? I was like, why? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do right now? I had to keep myself together. I literally have to keep myself together.
But I think it's a really important question, Taiji. I'm like, who is this woman? I love her already. Asking the questions that I'd want to ask, because I've been fortunate enough, Taiji, to have you in class numerous times, right? Virtually, in person. We've done it all the ways. And every time the struggle is the same with Taiji. But Shen, the kid, and I'm like, Taiji, inside out. And so I'm just wondering, for me, it is the thing, but like, how do you ensure that you're taking care of yourself? Because you can only give what you're overflowing with, right? And I say this in training all the time. If you're overflowing with intolerance, if you're overflowing with tiredness, if you're overflowing with grief, then that's what you're giving to everybody, intentionally or not. That's what you're giving, right? So how do you stay full? How do you keep your cup full?
Well, one, I'm a woman of faith, right? I think you know that about me. And I love nothing more but to be in the presence of God in a spirit of worship. And so when I can find myself where I'm just sort of laid out, just worshiping God, thanking God for keeping me, for sustaining me, for giving me peace that surpasses my understanding, that's where I begin to feel my strength renewed and I start feeling I can do this. I got some more stamina. I got some more. So for me, it is in that quiet place of worship, that expressive place of worship where I can sing and just, love on God and allow God to love on me. That's it for me. I feel like I feel like God is just a well that never runs dry. So I stay at the well. I try to stay at the well.
Yeah, but I've been hearing this a lot from the guests that we're having on the show, this idea of quietness, right? That place, wherever it is and whatever that looks like. For some people that's nature, for worship, and all the places, and your couch, like wherever the quiet.
And I cry a lot. I cry a lot. I cry more than I would like to, but I cry a lot.
But we love all the feelings, right, Taiji? We love all the feelings.
I like the happy feelings. I don't know. All the tears I cry, I have those feelings.
To make space for the happy ones, you got to also have the hard ones, right? Like it's a balance of both of those. I think we can get into a space, I think, in modern society as well, where we think like, oh, it's all rainbows and unicorns. And it's like, wait. I say this a lot. A lot of this work is doing some dark, heavy, not fun work to get to the place of those happy, good feelings, right? And it's balancing both of those out. So one of the things about kids is that you guys really understand that trauma informed isn't just this knowledge that we have. Yeah, our kids have been through hard stuff, but it means you actually have to do the work differently. And because that causes a lot of challenges. And so I'm wondering if you'd be willing to talk about a time where trying to implement trauma-informed work has been hard or difficult, or maybe you failed even, Taiji, where it just didn't go the way you wanted it to, right? Like, because that's part of the work, I think. And I think the one thing a lot of our listeners can benefit from you is like, it doesn't always work exactly the way I want it to. And then we keep coming back to try again and again and again.
Right. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things for us is after we attended your session, we attempted to, and still do, not attempted, I should say, we implemented the community check-in. And when I first did the virtual session, that community check-in, that first question, how are you feeling? You already know. I was like, no, please don't ask that question, because I want to fix things, right? So when I hear somebody's not feeling well, if I hear somebody, struggling with a certain feeling, I want to know what can I do? How can I fix it? How can I help? How can I make sure you're not feeling sad, or you're not feeling down, or you're not feeling, and that's exhausting, right? So It's a lot of work, but that's one of the things that we implemented, and I still, I still struggle with it because in the community meetings, the how are you feeling doesn't require a response. It doesn't require an explanation either. It's just a check-in. So we'll know and the team will know where you are in this moment. But, feelings is that thing. They're fickle, they come, they go, yes, they have us on a roller coaster ride oftentimes. But that was the hard part for me because and especially when you have certain team members that no matter what, the feeling is gonna have this negative sort of word associated with the emotions will, and that can be exhausting too.
Yeah, but we know, and what's the benefit? Have you seen a change? So it's hard, right? For people listening, the first question of community meeting is, how are you feeling? What are and people give one or two word response with no explanation. So they get to just say however they're feeling, and you don't dig in and say, to Taiji's point, how can I fix it? How do you what is how can I make you less overwhelmed? Why do you have anxiety? Right? It's just for people to own the feeling. And the idea in community meeting is for us to make space that maybe later in the day when that person's told me they're overwhelmed, perhaps I don't want to give them 6 new projects to work on today. Maybe we can just make some adjustments and kind of do this temperature check. But for those of us who are rescuers or recovering rescuers, Taiji is she's in recovery. She's not quite there yet. She's in recovery. It's hard because our need is to want to fix. But that need is exhausting in of itself. And so for those individuals listening, one of the best tips that I could try to give anybody is move to supporter. Do you need me to do anything? Like just asking that question versus I know what you need. I know how I can fix this for you can actually relieve us of a lot of work, and it can actually keep our cup full a little bit longer when we're in the doles of all the things, right?
And the benefit too, Shin, is sometimes when people speak out loud, the feeling shifts. They just needed to be heard that I was feeling a little sad today.
Name it, tame it, baby. Name it, tame it.
Right? By the end of the meeting, they're laughing at like the whole attitude has changed. Like they just needed somebody to hear, this is how I'm feeling right now. It sort of validates in a sense that emotion without catering to that emotion.
And so, what have you seen as a positive impact? We know how hard it can be, even just that one little piece, right? Like, and the work is complex, and we all know that, but like, even that one little piece, any benefits, Taiji, that you've seen?
Yeah, the shifting and the attitude, the way in which the teams is communicating, moving from problem focus to strength focus. One of my team members who I think is talkative, and I'm like, no, 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 they're not necessarily talkative. They just enjoy communicating, like just having this sort of paradigm shift. And it's not easy. Like you have to do it intentionally because otherwise your feelings, you kind of revert back to the feelings that you have, the same negativity, the same, it's, yeah. So it's really invoking that mindset shift in how we're processing and responding to information. So I'm finding that the team, they're communicating better. We still have our moments, we are communicating better. We're being intentional, I should say, about being a healing centered environment so that we can model it for our young people. Because I remember telling you, I feel like some of my team members need the same services we're offering our young. Like I hired you to be the example, but I feel like I need to be pouring in for you when I'm trying to pour into our young people. And I didn't put up that part.
Taiji, that I should have you say that louder for the leaders in the back, because that I think for every leader of every organization is the thing they miss. They don't teach you that in leader school anywhere or any book, but that's what I mean when I say it's this inside out work, is that we think about the end user in your case, it's kids, right? But if you work with the unhoused, or you work in domestic violence, or you work with veterans, or you work at a hospital and patients just come in, or you're an accountant and you've got clients that come in, your focus is what's the procedure to make it better for that end user, right? And the truth is if you don't make it better for your staff, it will never improve for the end user, because we get in that parallel process where the kids begin to act like the staff and the staff begins to act like the kids, and vice versa. Nurses act like patients, patients act like nurses. And so we want to increase positive parallel process. We want to decrease negative parallel process to find that balance in there. But I think you're so right, is that, wait, it's the staff. If I get it with the staff, then the end result for our kids will go up tremendously.
Absolutely. I didn't see it that way initially because I thought I was, I'm hiring people that's ready to jump in and provide this human service work that we're doing, this social service work that we're doing, like got all the right people on the bus, and realize, wait, okay, I got to sort of shift and sort of help everyone grow together and move in the same direction. And that was the part that's it's been a learning curve for me.
Yeah. I just think that's the thing for most organizations that they miss, regardless of what your business is, private, government, nonprofit, is that the staff and your end user will only be as good as each other. And I think, especially if you're working in a highly traumatized population like you are, that can begin to, we internalize that for the staff. People who come to this work, Taishi, as you know, don't come because they're going to be a millionaire. They come because they care about the work, and mostly because we have our own stories and our own stuff that makes us care about this work, right? And so it can get really confusing. As you kind of look at kits going into the future, do you have new initiatives or enhancements that you're looking at? And what's on the horizon for you all? And how are you thinking about embedding trauma informed as you move forward?
Yes. Well, recently we acquired a new building that we purchased, and it is a production studio that we call Kids Production Studio with Purpose, where we house our workforce development, and now we're working on a certified apprenticeship program. So our goal is to train these young people in all areas of the entertainment industry, the behind the scene jobs. I tell people all the time, the entertainment industry is an economy within an economy. You think about a job, it's represented in it. There's a job title, that job position in the entertainment industry. So we're really working to become a certified apprenticeship program alongside our workforce development program. So that's the big initiative we're working on now. And I think I've shared with you before, the ultimate goal for Kids in the Spotlight is to really create a performing arts boarding academy for 9th through 12th graders, so that kids that are in the system, if we can get a commitment from the state, from the county, to have these kids for 4 years, that they're not being transferred to 10 different high schools, 10 different homes. Let's eliminate the home barriers. Let's eliminate the transportation barriers. We house everything in house so that we can make sure that we're investing in those really critical years where they're getting ready to move into adulthood. And so with that type of model, trauma informed training has to be the leading tool that we use, because it's a lot. But I'm praying and hoping that, because it's a creative space, sort of like a Duke Ellington, where you can really focus on whatever your gift is or whatever your desire. You can be a drummer. You want to take the music track, or you want to take the architectural track. You want to take the whatever. We want to be able to have a customized program for those interests that our young people have, because I believe, being in foster care, you deserve the extra investment. You deserve to have some extra dollar signs behind your goals and your dreams and your vision, because you weren't privileged to have a steady adult, whether it's a parent or aunt, whomever, to help you navigate life. So we want to be that for young people. So that's what we're working on.
I can't wait. I mean, Taiji knows this. Like, if I won the Powerball, this school would exist all of our listeners tomorrow, because it's the thing I wrote about in my book about that there was a need for this boarding school. My own daughter went to an arts boarding school for high school, right? Like, I believe in this idea and this concept, like, through and through and through. Taiji, you and your team are the people to make it happen. And Taiji knows I'm just constantly texting, like, can this person give money? How about what can we do in collaboration with this person? Can we use their platform? Taiji, how can we move it forward? So for our listeners, maybe Mackenzie Scott's listening. We don't know.
Please listen, Mackenzie Scott. We actually applied for the yield giving.
I know. Because listen, I would argue, Taiji, you said these kids need some dollars spent on them. You won't get a disagreement from me, but I would say if we invested in this idea that Taiji has, we would actually save money as taxpayers. This money, we know, my friends at Aaliyah, right, and Ecotone did a social return on investment cost of foster care. When we do foster care really well, which is not very often, for every dollar we spend, we lose $3 and some change. Less than 1% of cases are done really well. When we do it the way we typically do it, for every dollar, we lose almost $10. It's a negative return on investment. If we would put those dollars into what Taiji's talking about, we're talking about doing healing of whole generations of kids, putting a stop to things, making people productive taxpayers in society. This is one of the many ways in which we could do it, and we could reduce numbers. So here's our shout out to anyone who's listening. If you know any funders, we're not too proud to beg around these parts. So we're just, us and Tina Turner, Taiji and I are like, we're on it. Tell us what we need to do. We're happy. So Taiji, we're getting close. I want to ask you some of our fun quick fire questions, but sort of as you reflect on the achievements and the growth of Kicks, we just talked about this dream project of the Performing Arts School. If there's someone out there who's also eager to start a nonprofit or initiate impact change, from your vast experience in doing this, what's one piece of critical advice that you would give them?
Don't give up, because there are so many opportunities for you to give up, especially if you don't have access to resources and funding. Because I was an outsider in child welfare, I was an outsider in the entertainment industry, I was an outsider in nonprofit management. I knew nothing about nonprofit management. I went back and got a master's degree after I started Kids in the Spotlight, but I'd already started the organization when I went back. There was so many opportunities. And then along the way, I got pregnant. And I was married 11 years. And the minute 2 years, I think it was 4 years after I started the organization, I got pregnant. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I would say just don't give up. If you feel like you have the answer to a need that exists, then be committed to showing up and meeting the needs.
Believe. Keep believing, right? It's such a big one. Taiji, I can't wait to have you on the show again. I can't wait till I get an invite to your podcast.
When you're in LA, we're doing it.
I like, it is on Becca's list, by the way. Like, I will be there, as you know. So some quick fire questions before we tell everybody how they can get in touch, how they can learn more about KITS. What's the latest book, TV show that you're watching that's taking your attention? What's standing out about it? It could be for fun, for work, for whatever. What's taking your attention on media?
So on YouTube, I've been watching this podcast called With the Perrys. It's a young lady by the name of Jackie Hill Perry, and her husband is last name Perry. Can't think of his first name, but I've been watching them a lot. Very, very intriguing. They are, a couple of faith. And so I've been doing a lot of that in my spare time, which is very rare. I don't get to watch much television. I get to see my kids' films.
What's your favorite kids' film right now from KITS, though?
Oh, now, that's just not a fair question.
Come on now. You got one or two. What's one or two we're going to put in the show notes? What's one or two we're going to put in the show notes for people to go check out?
Okay, because it just won Best Dramatic Film at the Reel to Reel Recovery, a film called, I think it was Unconditional. Yes, Unconditional is definitely one of my favorite. Another one is Love Just Is. I'm all things love. I love love. I love love.
All right. So for our listeners, we'll put a link to these in the show notes. So everybody, I want to get people introduced to the quality of films, because I think that's a big chunk. It's like, these are quality movies that the kids are putting out. These are not just like junk stuff. This is really, really high quality footage. So I want people to see it.
Yes, industry professionals show up to help produce and make these films for the young people. So yes, they are high quality films.
We love it. If you could have dinner with a historical figure or a contemporary leader, who would it be? And more importantly, what's the one question you would want to ask them?
One would definitely be Jesus, honestly. If I could, historical, I'm like, how, why did you do it? Like, what? It would be Jesus. But I'm also intrigued by Mother Teresa and Dr. King. Like, those are two also historians I would love to sit and just talk to.
I love it. We love it. What gives you pure joy, Tige? What fills your soul? You lose track of time. You don't want to stop doing it once you stop. Hobby, activity, the thing that just gives you pure joy.
Worship service. I love going to worship service. I can just, yes, hearing the praise team sing, the music playing, and everybody singing out, giving God praise. That's my happy place. That is my happy place.
Keep Tige there. She needs to fill her cup up more. She'll get lectured from me after this. Tige, can you tell all the people, what do you guys have coming up? How could people get involved with KITS, KITS.org? We know that. We'll put that in the show notes. How could they find you, invite you to be in places that they are? Give us all the information.
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is kidsinc.org or kidsinthespotlight.org. We do have our annual Kids Film Awards coming up on November 2nd at Paramount Studios. It's a star-studded event. We have some amazing celebrities coming out to support and present our young people with awards. That information is on our website, again, www.kidsinc.org. I have been doing, more and more public speaking. You can find more information about me at Tige Charity.com. And so we easy to find. We want to be accessible at all times. And the studio is kidsproductionstudio.org.
So because people can rent the space, right? So if they have things that they're filming, they can come in, rent the space, which gives back directly to Kids in the Spotlight to fund other programs so you guys can grow and expand. So if they're shooting their podcast, they want to shoot some YouTube clips, all the things for our listeners, anybody who's listening, if they do it at your studio, the money doesn't just go into the pocket of big studios. It comes back.
Look, do what you love and pay it forward at the same time. That's how I like to say it. Do what you love, make film, television shows, whatever it is, at our studio, and know that you're investing in the lives of young people, especially those that have been impacted by foster care.
We love it. Tige, as always, it's so great to have you on the show. I enjoy seeing you. I wish I got to see you more often. Is that I love spending so much time with you. For our other listeners, we're so glad that you've listened to another episode. Thanks for tuning in to Mindful Management, Creating a Trauma-Informed Work Environment. For more resources, please be sure to check out the show notes to links to Kids in the Spotlight, or head on over to chefaloconsulting.com where we have more free resources and tools for you. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, show your support, like, comment, follow, and review the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and brings even better content your way. We'd love to hear from you, so drop a comment on Spotify or YouTube and share the topics that you're interested in. Maybe you want to know more about community meeting. Maybe we've got to talk about reenactments, Tige, moving from those rescuers to those supporters. Whatever you do, please remember that the journey, go slowly, go intentionally, one step at a time, and we can do hard things together. Until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Mindful Management, Creating a Trauma-Informed Work Environment is brought to you by Chefalo Consulting. To learn more about Chefalo Consulting and our trauma-informed change management and professional development solutions, please visit chefaloconsulting.com. That's Chefalo, Chefalo, mindfulconsulting.com. Make sure you don't miss these transformative conversations by subscribing to Mindful Management wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening, and remember, change happens one step at a time.